Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago. That is much later than the sun. The Old Testament account, the Hebrew Bible account, tells us that it was the other way around. So it got that bit wrong.
All right. So we're.
This was an experience of a cringe level of 1,000% and very frustrating to watch. Oftentimes we see in debates and discussions individuals who just shouldn't be on a stage of apologetics, especially when it concerns like things like theology or things that are deeply rooted in scripture. You might occasionally get those guys who are able to tackle certain subject matter, but then should be very weary of other subject matters. And we get that today with Dinesh D'Souza and his interaction with Alex O'Connor, also known as the Cosmic Skeptic. And if I can express to you the level of concern, the level of agony that I experienced during this conversation, man, I don't think there would be a term to even describe it, because this is a clear indication that Dinesh D'Souza did not belong on the same stage as Alex O'Connor. It's not because Dinesh D'Souza is not a smart man. It's not because he doesn't have experience in debating or anything like that, but it centerlines on the idea that Dinesh D'Souza belongs in a certain paradigm, right? Dinesh D'Souza is more known for his political points, right? His political takes and his debating of political figures. He's not known for his theological takes and debating things concerning scripture. It's one of those things where you need to know when you are limited and what areas you are limited in. Because if you take on a debate subject or a debate opponent that clearly outweighs you intellectually and as far as ability, you will make not only yourself look foolish, but also the particular background or the particular group or religion, if you will, that you're representing look bad as foolish as well. And I believe that Dinesh D'Souza did this in this interaction.
Yes, the Bible is not.
So sometimes it gets things right, sometimes it gets things wrong, you know?
The Bible is not a science. It's not listing out a scientific.
Well, now hold on a second. You can't now move the goalpost, especially if you're still gonna miss.
The issue. The issue of the origin of the universe is extremely critical.
You just told me that Genesis predicted or knew about or somehow knew about the scientific hypothesis of the origin of the universe. Then when I pointed out another scientific observation that doesn't accord with Genesis, you tell me that Genesis isn't a scientific text to begin with.
I mean, clearly you see that Dinesh D'Souza is completely outweighed in this conversation. He's not familiar with the subject matter. And so this is the concern that I was saying. The level of cringe that was experienced in this conversation was just enormous. And this just goes to show that if you're a debater or an apologist and you decide to get on a debate stage with someone as popular and as articulate as Alex O'Connor, not saying that Alex O'Connor is the smartest man in the world, but he is a smart man, right? And he's a very experienced debater. He's debated some of the best. He's had multiple conversations with William Lane Craig. You know, he's debated individuals like Jonathan McClatchy. He's had multiple layers of conversation with very articulate and smart individuals. So the fact that he is sort of debating a Dinesh D'Souza and clearly is defeating Dinesh D'Souza, it says it points out more important things when it comes to debating and jumping on the stage with someone and with a particular subject matter as like the Bible is true. First, the subject matter is too broad, right? Narrow down the field of the conversation. Don't debate anything that says, is the Bible true? Because that takes it to a wide-ranging conversation at that point, right? How about narrowing it down? If we're going to talk about does the biblical creation point to the Bible being true, then narrow it down to talking about just the biblical creation. And not this broad subject of is the Bible true? Because what that does, that makes you have to study this broad area of subject matter, and it just convolutes things and it makes things difficult to sort of bring everything together because there's such this wide-ranging conversation. So by Dinesh D'Souza taking on this subject matter, this topic, this premise of is the Bible true, it just shows that he wasn't really in it to win it. He was more in it to just have a conversation with Alex O'Connor. And I think that's a problem in the grand scheme of things. And I think this is obviously a reason why Dinesh D'Souza it appears that he is totally outweighed in this conversation, because clearly Alex O'Connor came prepared and Dinesh D'Souza did not.
It is making a astounding claim, which pertains to God. Obviously, God created the heavens and the earth.
Is it making a scientific claim or not? Is it telling us how the universe scientifically formed or not?
It's not telling us how the universe scientifically formed, because if it did, they would be outlining the history of the Big Bang.
Then what's the relevance of bringing this up in the first place?
Because it is stating a conclusion, not a process. It's not telling you how the universe was formed. Right. It's not telling you about...
It also doesn't tell us how the sun was formed, but it tells us that it was formed after the earth was. It tells us that that's the case. That's wrong. It's incorrect.
Show me.
Well, I don't have a Bible.
Okay. Well, I've read that passage maybe a dozen times. I have never spotted this contradiction that you're describing. But I'll go back and look at it again. But again,
on what day is it that God makes the sun? And day 4? Is day 3 or day 4, something around there?
You're right, but
when's
the
light
mainstream
created?
of the Christian tradition does.
It
obviously can't be day 4 because the concept of day in the original Hebrew doesn't mean day.
Sure, but day 4 comes after day 1, right?
Well, it's describing obviously epochs or periods.
Yeah,
yes.
So actually it's much worse, because now the sun is created much later than the earth was.
Well, not necessarily. Well, show me.
I don't know. I mean, we can read through that. We can find Genesis.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that.
And once again, you see the problem here, right? Dinesh D'Souza is completely unprepared. We can go into the whole conversation of when there was light, or is the sun in that particular situation of creation, was the sun necessarily needed to sustain the plants and things like that during creation? We can get to that whole conversation, but that's not the point of this video, right? The whole point of this video is to point out the incapability of Dinesh D'Souza to dialogue with Alex O'Connor on the subject matter. Alex O'Connor seems to be prepared. Dinesh D'Souza, not so much. In this conversation of is the Bible true, you have to be aware and know that this is probably one of the subject matters that are going to come up. Was the idea of creation, the 6-day creation, does it show that the Bible be true in this concept of the sun being created or made after the plants? Does that true? You have to be able to debate this subject matter. Now, there's plenty of resources out there that will help Dinesh D'Souza prepare for this conversation. One I would recommend is Dr. Jason Lau. Dr. Jason Lau does a fantastic job of interacting with this conversation. Obviously, this is a primary focus of his ministry, is biblical creation. So if you want to go there and have a discussion with this subject matter or engage in the subject matter, why not engage with Jason Lau's content so you can be prepared for this type of question? Now, if you need more of the older creation position, then perhaps you can interact with the content of Hugh Ross. Hugh Ross is an older creation. Obviously, there's differences there. There's difference of disagreement. But my point is that there are a plethora of content out there that will help you prepare for the subject matter. And it just seems as if Dinesh D'Souza stepped into this unprepared, not ready. And this is why he seems to be getting eviscerated and destroyed in this conversation, absolutely made to look foolish. And not only is he made to look foolish, but he's making Christianity look foolish as well, which is obviously the most concerning aspect of this conversation. This goes to show that no one should be taking on conversations that they're not ready and prepared to take on. And if you feel that this conversation or this topic is more than what you're ready for, or it's not in your area of expertise, by all means, just take a step back and not deal with it. Because if you step on the stage with someone as experienced and as articulate and as smart as Alex O'Connor, he's an atheist. So he's going to go out his way to make Christianity look foolish. That's what he is there to do. And so if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, if you're not studied up in these areas of thought, stick to something else. Stick to what you're good at. Because ultimately, what you're going to do is that you're going to make Christianity look foolish, and that's not what we're here for, right? We want to make sure Christianity appears to be a really reasonable faith, and obviously there's this aspect to where the gospel is foolishness to those who are perishing. We get that. That's why Alex O'Connor is debating this and rejecting this, because he thinks it's foolish. But from a Christian perspective, someone who's arguing don't help the atheist make it look foolish. Don't help the atheist who already sees the gospel as foolishness make it even more foolish because you as a Christian are not prepared and not ready to argue for this subject matter. And this subject matter is clearly out of your depth, right? You're not ready for it. Stick to what you're good at and stick to what you have been called to do. Because as soon as you step on the stage in a subject matter that you're not ready to take care of or not ready to engage with, now you've written a check that your butt cannot cash. That's all I have for this video. I thank you for enjoying it. Hopefully you'll know to subscribe and hit that notification bell on the Gospel Truth so you don't miss out on any commentaries, interviews, or debates that are coming up here in the future. Take care. God bless.